Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the second session on SAP BW. And in this session, we're going to talk about uh, how to load a flat file into a InfoCube structure. But before we go into that, let us do a recap of some of the theoretical terms which we saw. The first thing that is involved in BW is we start with info area. Okay. Once we have an info area, we go ahead and create something called as catalog. Further to catalog, we have two kinds of catalogs. One is for characteristics and one is for key figure catalog. So what is this info area? Info area is a folder, and further to that you have two subfolder called the characteristics catalog and key figure catalog, which are two subfolders. Characteristics and catalog are supposed to store our characteristics, and key figure catalog are supposed to store our key figure. Okay, so followed by that we have once we have our characteristics and key figure in our place, we go ahead and create something called as the info cube. Once the info cube is done, so info cube is a structure in which consists of your characteristics and key figure. Once the info cube is done, we go ahead and create our data source. So what is data source? Data source is a structural representation of the source from which the data is coming. So data source could be our ECC system, it could be Excel file, it could be third-party system. So in that third-party system or the SAP, the data would be stored in some rows and table format, that is a table format. So that table we kind of bring into BW, and that's what we call as data source. Further to data source, we have something called as transformation. So what is transformation? Transformation is mapping the data source field with the info cube fields. Okay, and followed to transformation, you have DTP, and followed by DTP we have info package. Okay, so what is DTP and info package? The DTP and info package are triggering mechanism that would trigger the data from your source system to the info cube. Okay, so what we will do is that we will go by one and try to have this data created, and finally the data is loaded in the info cube. Why do we want to load the data in the info cube? So that we can take the data further into BEX analyzer and start creating our reports. Okay, and the advantage that InfoCube provides comparison to a table is InfoCube has got huge capacity in terms of data storage, and the data retrieval and data processing is a lot easy when the data is in the InfoCube. Okay, so we'll start. So first we go into this info provider section, right click and start creating. Let me start creating the 1 second, I think. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So we start creating the info area. We go into this transaction RSA1 and then just right click here, create info area. Go ahead and let's say I create one-to-one. So suppose this is my info area. Right click on that. Okay, so probably somebody has already created. So the values that we fed in for any of these objects has to be unique. So I just change the name of my info area to is IA22. So it's better to give some meaningful names, but anyway for this it is fine. So I have got an info area 1 to 2. Now go to info objects, right click here and create info object catalog. So as I said, what are catalogs? Catalogs are nothing but folder. So I'm going to create a catalog called as CHAR22, and this is for characteristics. CHAR, use option characteristics, click on create and activate this. Furthermore, I need to create one more folder. Right click, create info object catalog, and this would be your figure. So KEYFG. Select this option key figure, click on create, and then click on activate. Okay. So for this example, the flat file that I want to upload in the system is a sales history, probably a sample sales history that is in my Excel. Okay. So what are the sections that I'm going to put in my flat file is product, location, customer, and quantity, unit, and date. Okay, this is my flat file. I'm going to format cell, text. Okay. So date I'm going to have 012016. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and start creating my characteristics. So right click, create info object. I will name my info object as ZPR22, which resembles PROUCT, product. Click here, tick mark. Select here BW. Give your data type. Let's say we want to use characteristics. Put the length as 10 and click on activate. So I have a characteristics created called as ZProd. Product. Generally in a production system it would take rather less time to get updated. Okay, so the product characteristics in, I'm going to go ahead again, right click, ZLOC22, that's going to be my location. Click on create, BW. Okay, so I will have to change it a little bit, LO22. Click here, tick mark. So again, I'm going to put it under characteristics, let's say 10, and click on activate. So this is going to be my second characteristics, which will store the unit as location. The next thing what we are going to do is create info object called as Z customer 22, CUSTOMER. Click here, tick mark. Again, select BW. Again, I'm going to use it of type characteristics. Then click on activate. So to have this data uploaded, I've created the first three characteristics: product, location, customer, right here. And then, as discussed previously, the quantity is basically your key figure. So how do we do that? So go down, right click on the key figure section, create info object, and here it is ZQTY22. This is quantity. Click here, tick mark. Again, put it as BW. Paste. Since we are going to have quantity and quantity has to have a unit with it, I'm going to set this up. Click on activate. So that's all that is involved in terms of creating our characteristics and key figure. Characteristics will store basically your master data, and key figure is the one that is going to change throughout the process. So now next we go back to our info provider and right click on your info area and use this option, create info cube. So this is ICUB 22. I'm going to try this, put that name, click on create, again select BW. Okay, so this is my info cube. Paste it. Now go to this dimension section, right click, info object direct input, and select all your characteristics under this section, bring it in, and similarly go to your key figure section and add your key figure. So go ahead again here, info object direct input, what is my key figure, add it here, click here tick mark. The unit, if I expand this dimension, we can see the three characteristics under key figure. I have key figure under unit. There would be unit. For time I'm going to use a standard key figure. So go under info object direct input, go for key figure called as OCal month, select that, and now the time characteristics is also updated, so we can go ahead and activate it. So this is how we create an info cube. The structure of info cube would depend, and the characteristics and key figure what we set up would depend upon what data we want to extract into our info cube, and that's how the structure we would be needing to develop. Here we are taking a very simple example, and probably in the following sections we would have complex info cube created. And once the info cube is created, we go into our source system. Okay, so as far as source system is concerned, we can have multiple types of source system. It could be SAP system, it could be an external system, it could be a flat file. Okay, so in case in our example we are using a file, so I'll go into this section and I'll use the option PC file, which is the standard SAP given format, and create our, so the option will move to data source, where I go in and create my application component, and further we create our data source. But had it been R3 system, we just would have needed to replicate a data source. Okay, I'm into that PC file. Okay, right click here and use this option, create application component. So it is, what is it, I can give AC22 as the name right now. So click here tick mark. So probably in the following session we would see how to extract the data in ECC, and in that we would use the replication as an option to create our data source. Right now we are creating a data source from scratch. So it is asking us a data source name. I'm going to put AC, okay, DS22E. That is going to be, it is for transactional data. Right click here tick mark. This you can keep a backup of your data source. Click here paste. Okay, so give it a description. Go to the field section and add up all the fields. Okay, so what are the fields that we have in terms of our info cube? We have product location, customer, we put it, and we have sales quantity, so this step can be ignored in case we are using SAP standard database. For calendar, we'll use this. So once this is added, I don't need this, so I can remove this too. Even remove this. Go to this extraction section and let's create some data. So our product is, let's say, charger, CHRGR. Location, that is manufacturing, is US. Customer is Nike, and quantity is 1000 units, that is EA. And I'll just copy this small set of data. So this is a very sample data in real time. The data can be a lot complex. Go into this section and just I'll drag. So probably I have 11 months of sales history. There could be differences in the quantity, but as of now that's not important. Save that. Save the file in a flat file format which SAP can understand. Go under this section, save as CSV, and I will just delete this file, up csv, save, close this, save, desktop, save, save. Now we need to give the path of this file wherever we have this data. I put it here. Number of rows to be ignored is 1. Fixed length, change it to comma. So that's all that I need. We can just go ahead and activate this. Okay, click here, tick mark. So it's taking some time. Generally it would take lesser time if it is a real system. This is an IDES system, so probably it is taking some time. So let's wait for a few minutes. Okay. So once we have the data source ready, so what is data source? As I just updated few minutes back, data source is a structural representation of the source system from which the data is coming. So data source is not going to store any data. It's just a structure, okay, of your original system from which the data is supposed to come. Okay. So we have the structure ready, and we have also given the path of the file from where the data is coming, and we have ensured the structure of the file and the structure of the data source match with each other. Okay. So based on the structure of the file, actually we have created the fields of data source. So now you can see this data source is active. You can go to this field section, preview section, and click on read preview data. So if there is any error, okay, it will just tell us that it is not able to read the data. But for current situation, it is able to connect to our Excel and read the data. Reading the data doesn't mean it is extracting any data. It just checks the connection. Okay. Now go back to your InfoCube. The next process is updating the transformation. Go ahead and create transformation. Use the option as data source. Select it. Put here star DS22E star and put it. So this is the one. Select here. So since the characteristics and key figure are same, system will automatically connect to the correct ones. All we need to do is an activate. So this process, what we did right now, is called the transformation process. We can add few ABAP codes into this section in case we want to modify the data while it is getting loaded. Now right click here, go to create data transfer process. So data transfer process is a triggering mechanism which is going to extract the data from your internal table called the PSA, persistent storage area, or the staging table. From there it is going to extract in the InfoCube, and there is one more structure called the InfoCube. So right click here, create InfoCube. So what is this info package? Info package is going to extract your data from the source system to a PSA, and then using DTP we will move the data to PSA to the InfoCube. Okay. So I'll go to this info package, click on start. So it start extracting the data. So click on execute. So overall this is the structure that the system creates one by one, and if we want to monitor if our process got processed or not, click on this icon. It's going to show like 11 records got processed. We can go back and then go to DTP, and again click on this execute option and click on execute. So what is DTP going to do? DTP is going to extract the data from PSA to the InfoCube. Okay, so that's all that involves the loading. From the next time, in case we want to load any data into the info cube, we need not create all this process. We can just change the path of this file or rename the Excel file, and we can just execute this info package and DDP, and the data will move into the info cube. But overall, this execution of info package and DDP doesn't happen manually. They are all done by process chains. So process chain is going to get utilized. So we'll talk about process chains and probably a little bit later. So until this turns yellow or green, that means system is doing some kind of processing. So right now everything is green, and that means the data is loaded. To see the data, if it has loaded or not, right click and click on display data. Go for field selection for output, use option select or characteristics. We can remove this internal system characteristics, click on execute and execute. So once this is done, we would be able to see the values, for example, customer, location, product, month, quantity, and unit. So this data can be easily then used into our BEX analyzer for reporting purpose. So that's it. In the next session, we will be starting with the next concepts related to BW. In case you have any doubts, you can drop a mail, and we will be joining again tomorrow, same time, for the next session. Yeah, and all of you, please do practice, and please drop a mail in case you have doubts or questions. System accesses are already given to you. Okay, thank you. In case we have any doubts, we can continue with our session. Okay.